Hello, cheers for checking out the channel today. So we've got a bit of it's not a restoration, it's basically just well, it's probably a restoration, but basically this is my Bosscat Works. It's a bit of a special car to me, the Bosscat Works. So the Bosscat Works was the last four-wheel drive buggy that I had before I quit. I stopped racing somewhere around about 93 originally. The cars I had at the time, I had the Bosscat Works and the Cougar 2 Works. I've got a Cougar 2 Works. I've got about two maybe left now. I had one that I'd built up as a runner, raced at the Lakeland Classic last year. Loved it, but it's now been moved on. So I've had a couple of Bosscats, but I've never had a Works one. Didn't think that I was going to be able to actually get a Works. So I started sourcing parts, which I'll come to in a minute, but basically I want to put this back to pretty much how it was. So obviously the most obvious, the chassis. It's got a custom chassis and top deck on this, and on the back the rear suspension hanger, again that's an aftermarket one. The rear shock tower, it was the same, it matched all this, but I've got that put on just because I needed the rear shock tower off it when I broke one on my Pro Cat. So it doesn't have the alloy drive shafts. I know mine did back in the day. I don't know if it came with the kit or if you had to buy them separately. I know with the Cougar 2 Works they came with them, but I had the Cougar 2 ones built up. And then when it came to the Bosscat, I know it was the Bosscat one that I broke on getting the little crucifix in. And then it was just a case of going to the shop, buying the part that I needed, and then got it all done. It would be great if we could just do that in this day and age, but seriously, finding parts for the Bosscat, it's very hard. It's pretty similar to the Pro Cat, but your front end is pretty all differently designed, so the way that the gearbox all goes in, it's a lot easier for maintenance. You don't have to get the 4 screws going right through the front bulkhead. Your front uprights, these have a habit of breaking where your crashback bands go on. If you do run a Bosscat, or you're going to look at running your Bosscat, everyone will say the same, don't fit the orange castration bands. Yes, they're great, but the trouble is that it puts a lot of pressure on you. You can end up snapping the little tab. I don't know if it shows up in there. The little tab will snap off, and then basically there's nothing then holding the crash back on. So it still has the crash back system with it. But yeah, your front hubs, they're all different to the Pro Cat. And your front arms, these ones are adjustable on it, so you can, I'm pretty sure you can fit these on the Pro Cat. I think a lot of people did, but basically you can just turn them. These, I don't know if it'll show up on the camera, but they're all marked on there. I'm guessing it's where it's been held, because these can be pretty tight to turn. So rather than your normal turnbuckles where you can turn them dead easily, these things can be a bit of a nightmare. This one's got the one-way drive shafts on. They're not the originals. These are the aftermarket, the 3D printed ones that James Hodgson does. They're going to stay on. The shocks, it's got the alloy, purple alloy bottoms on. Again, they weren't a standard part, but again, they're going to stay on because I'm not pulling the shocks apart just to have it sat on the shelf. Your rear motor plates, they're in this gorgeous Schumacher purple, as it's now sort of known. And we've got alloy eccentrics. Don't quite see them in there. So you've got a good multiple selection holes for getting the belt tension. The top pulley has got the alloy ones on. I don't know where these are from, who did these, whether they were from back in the day. It's got the alloy inner motor housing and the Z bracket on the back. That's an alloy one. I've not seen any names on it, but obviously you've got the sort of cooling fins that everything sort of went to when you were running your brush motors. Obviously, it's got an uprated slipper on. So one of the other reasons is to get this off and get it back. So we're going to need some standard parts. So I've managed to track a chassis down. It's not the most clean, but it's not the worst that I've seen either. But I'm not bothered about it being immaculate. It would just be impossible to find parts. So I've got the chassis. So the carbon fibre, it's got a green sort of tint. So all your carbon fibre bits have this sort of green tint on. So the top deck. So those were the two parts that have really put this project on hold. Rear suspension hanger. Managed to get one. Again, it's an old original part, so it has been used, but I do not care. So before this come about, like I say, I had some Bosscats. So parts that I'd managed to accumulate. I'd managed to get hold of some of the purple motor plates. They weren't in the best condition, but I wasn't that bothered at the time. And then luckily scored some new in pack parts. So I was really happy and excited to get these. They're not the easiest thing to find. These do actually fit the XLS and Pro Cats, but the ones on this, they're in good enough condition. They're not going to be swapped over. So basically I've got now bits I can sell on to try and get some money back from the car. Your front uprights, because I ran it a couple of times and I was going to run it more, I decided to hunt spares. So I managed to find 2 packs of the front uprights, and I'd love to know if this £2.95 was the original price back in the day. But yeah, these are just impossible to find. Front wishbone set, again, the ones on it, they're in good enough condition to me, so they're going to stay on. So your front wishbones, they do come with the tie rods, so obviously these are all brand new. I could replace them, make it look great, but again, I can move these on, get some money back. Rear arms, so these are specific to the works. So the Bosscat and the Cougar 2 Works had these specific arms, so, and hub. So they're actually a lot different to your normal Cougar and Pro Cat arms. And obviously the rear hub different as well. So I had a set, I've got a few sets of these because I've been running the Cougar 2 Works a while. But again, there's a set that I put aside just for this resto, but doesn't need them, so these will either get sold or I'll keep them for the Cougar. Set front hub carriers. I don't know if there's any difference between the normal and the Works, but I've got these. So again, more parts I can either use to upgrade the Pro Cat, or we can use to sell on. Destruction manual. Obviously, I can't remember how I built this and how I worked on it back in the day. So I've tracked down one of those. A few other little parts that I've accumulated. So front hubs. I think most of these, they've been used or little use. Top gearbox mounts. I know there's one that's common to break. I don't know if it's the top or the bottom one. I think it's the top one. I think it's when this breaks, because this is actually what the front arm pivots on. So just in there is where it actually pivots. So obviously that breaking will mean that your front end's just going to flap around. Obviously, compared to the Pro Cat, the belt runs on top of the chassis, so you get a nice flat underside. So there's a little block that goes underneath the rear gearbox that lifts it up. The front, obviously everything's different on the front. These are all the same as far as I'm aware between XLS, Pro Cat, the transmission housing, so that, don't need that. A front bumper off another, it's pretty scuffed up, badly scuffed up, but if I was to ever run this again, I'd probably swap it out, because the bumper on this, oops, sorry about that, it's not too bad. But like I say, I'm not going for absolutely immaculate. restoration. These parts were nigh on impossible to find, but now that we've got the Procat Re, these are 10 a penny now. Obviously these are sided, so you've got your left and right, or my initials. So what we're going to do now is get it all pulled apart. So I think I have everything that I need, but I'm not going to film pulling the car apart. Slipper, I've got a nice new slipper assembly. There's a new lay shaft in there. There's some more bits in here that come out of Procat, I think it was. For some reason it had a lay shaft for a slipper, but it was all badly worn. So I'm hoping I've got everything that I need for this. I've not actually checked. That's what I forgot to do. But yeah, I'll get it all pulled apart, and then hopefully we should see it all back up and running. And there we are, we're all back. I've not filmed any of the work involved in getting the chassis swapped over because I wasn't 100% sure what I was doing. But if you've worked on an XLS or a Procat, you'll know how annoying the front end is to work on. Because I've not worked on one of these in a long time, I completely forgot. Basically, you've got the 2 screws there. There's 2 screws going the front down there. That whole section then lifts off, and you've got access to your diff, and everything stays set as it is. So your belt tension's basically done by, you can't see them, but you've got some eccentrics just in the front either side in there. All you do, clock them, and that'll decrease or increase your belt tension. But yeah, so we've got that lovely carbon back on. Obviously not immaculate, but I could have spent absolutely ages trying to find a brand new chassis, top deck and everything, but she's all on there. So I have made one little cock up. Basically the body set that I thought I had was actually a Procat one, so I need to get in touch with Steve at Penguin Body Shells, and he does the full kit. So it's your under tray, lower belt cover, and then your upper one. And again, your upper one's dead easy to put on. You don't have to do the 4 bolts, it just slots into the front there. The bottom one is fairly easy to get on as well. You've got, I think you've just got to undo these servo posts just in there. Your under tray again as well, compared to the Procats and XLS, it just goes on. So basically your front slots in underneath the bumper, and then just a bit of Velcro, and that's it all on. So it is more maintenance friendly car. But yeah, need a spare gear on it. Obviously I've got some somewhere, but I need to go and dig one out. But because it's going to sit on the shelf, it's not essential. So all I want to do is find some good condition yellow springs, purely because I'm pretty sure back in the day I always had the yellow springs on. Whether it's just because they look better with yellow, I don't know, but I want the yellow ones. So I've got my old body shell still. That's pretty much how it was when I had it. Obviously this has got the newer Schumacher sticker on, but I got this sprayed up. I've run it a few times, thoroughly enjoyed it, but it's just because parts are just that hard to get hold of, I'm not going to run it. I've got the Procat and I've got a Cat 2000. So the Cat 2000, the very first one that doesn't have the lay down shocks, that's in the 93 bracket. So there's no point in me running this and risking it. It's just going to sit on the shelf and remind me of the good old days. But yeah, that's it all done. So I want to get some purple to replace the top ones there. But yeah, I think that's pretty much it for this car. So got some correct aero disc wheels on, managed to find a set. I've got quite a few of these. The Cougar 2 Works, I've actually found a brand new impact set. So I've just put mini spike tyres on. I thought I had some fronts, but I don't. So I've got a set that they've had the outer rows cut off. So I'll get a new set of mini spikes. I need some inserts as well. I don't have any inserts. Really need to go through and see what I've got. But because we're at the end of the racing season, we're indoors now. So tyres are a lot easier. You just pretty much use one set of tyres. You're not chopping and changing. But yeah, hope you've enjoyed it. I've got another few jobs to do on the Cougar, so there'll be some upgrades going on that I've got. So if you want to see what else is going on to Trigger's Broom, watch out for the next video. Cheers, guys.